Hello, welcome to SoCal Motorcycle Services. I'm Buck, and I'm here with the 1974 CB554. And in a previous review, I went over the bike, and today we're going to tackle as some people call it, the dreaded valve adjustment. Valve adjustments are critical on all Japanese motorcycles. I say Japanese motorcycles because Harleys in general have self-adjusting valves. Japanese motorcycles, you have to adjust the valves on almost all of them. Sorry, it's really hot today. It's about 95, so I'm going to be sweating. So we're going to go into I'm going to explain a little bit about what a valve adjustment is. It's going to be a little technical and dry, but the second part of this video, I'm going to actually adjust the valves and show you how to do it. Okay, now valve adjustments, what are they? You have to adjust the clearance between the rocker arm and the actual valve. You always do a valve adjustment when the bike is completely cold. I like to let it sit overnight because metal expands, and the adjustments they give you are for cold engines. And we're talking very small measurements. On this bike, the intake valves, you set to 0.02 of an inch clearance for the intake, and 0.03 of an inch clearance on the exhaust. Exhaust valves get hot, they expand more, so usually on motorcycles the exhaust valves are set with a little looser tolerance. You want to adjust them at top dead center on the compression stroke when both valves are completely closed, and the rocker arms should be at their loosest point. Now, there are two different types of valve adjustments on Japanese motorcycles. Older bikes use just a screw and adjuster type valve where you don't have to deal with shims. They usually have access ports to to get to the valves to adjust them. It's a lot simpler, but you have to do it more often. So this bike, since it's a 74, it has the screw type adjusters, which I like. On newer sport bikes and Japanese bikes in general, you have what's called shim under bucket. You have a bucket over the valve stem that has a shim in it, and to adjust it, you have to replace the shim to a different size shim, which is really difficult because you have to take off the valve cover. Then to actually adjust the valves, you have to take the cams out. That could be arduous and very complicated. But we lucked out. We got the only thing simpler than adjusting the valves on this bike would be adjusting the valves on a single. This has 2 valves per cylinder, 1 exhaust valve, 1 intake valve. Modern sport bikes and modern bikes in general tend to have 4 valves per cylinder. So instead of adjusting 8 valves, you have to adjust 16 valves. The good thing about shim under bucket is you could go much longer between valve adjustments. Again, it's so hot. Sorry about that. But I have to get this bike done. And it's summer. So why do valves need to be adjusted? Valves need to be generally, and everything I'm going to say is for the most part. Generally, valves get tighter, not looser. The reason being is valves are in the head, and they're steel in an aluminum head, so the valve seat where the valve sits are steel inserts. Over time, with the valves opening and closing, it bangs the seats into the head, which essentially makes the valves longer. So when the valves get longer, you lose clearance. When you don't have clearance, it tends to keep the valves open a little bit, and you start losing compression. So it's a critical thing to adjust the valves. At least inspect them. But if you're going to inspect them, you're going to adjust them. Except for on the shim under buckets. Most of the time, you inspect them the first time. You don't have to take out the cams. You can just adjust. You can inspect them and check the clearances while the cams are still on. You have to do it while the cams are still on, or you can't check the adjustment. And we use a thing called feeler gauges. I'll show you what I mean when I start doing the valves. So just the critical things to know are you have to have your valves adjusted and checked. On these older bikes, it's every few thousand miles. On modern sport bikes, the first valve interval inspection is usually at around either 16,000 or a lot of them are going to 26,000 miles. So you don't have to adjust them as often. And don't get me started on Ducatis. Ducatis are crazy. They don't have valve springs. They have Desmotronic valves. You have to adjust those valves. They used to be every 6,000 miles. Now they started going to titanium valves, so you can do them every 12,000 miles, and it's a pain. You have to basically drop the motor. So we're not talking about Ducatis. We're talking about the simple CB550 today. So stay tuned. I'm about to take this bike apart and show you how to adjust them. Have a great day, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks. Okay, we're back, and there's going to be some noise in the background, so please just ignore it. So what we have to do is we take the seat off first to adjust the valves. Then we take off the tank, which is the easiest thing in the world to do on a CB550. You just unplug the fuel line, then you lift up this rubber boot, lift up the tank, and pull it off the front bungs. Easiest tank in the world to take off. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take off this cover right here, which is your points cover. It's not, but as you'll see, it takes, excuse me, excuse me, it's easy. It takes, has two JIS screws. Remember to use a JIS instead of a Phillips head. See how good it fits? And I forget which size this is, but it's a big one. So we take these off, and then when we take these off, there's no oil behind it or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll see that this has been converted to electronic ignition, so it doesn't have points anymore, which is a good thing, because the electronic ignition is much more reliable and just works much better. But I'll show you why we took that off in a minute. Then we're going to take off the caps for the valves. And they look just like that. That's these right here. There's going to be 8 of them. Just for reference, the caps closest to the carburetors are intake. The caps closest to the exhausts on the front are the exhaust. valve are going to be when we adjust the exhaust valves. And then we're going to be, the cylinders are numbered from 1 to 4. 1 is on the left side, sitting on the bike next to where the generator is. Then we got 2, 3, and 4 is on the far side. Now to get off these, you just use a socket. You're going to use a 17 millimeter. Make sure you use a 6-point socket. Don't use a 12-point because it'll strip these. These are aluminum. So you just loosen them up. I pre-loosened them because sometimes they can get stuck. But this is the intake valve on cylinder 1. This is the exhaust valve on cylinder 1. Now, I'll get you a good view of that. That's what I'm having a problem focusing. Okay, that's the valve. This is the rocker arm, and it's on the valve. And you can see it's loose. And what we want to do is we're going to set the cylinder 1 to top dead center on the compression stroke. And how you can tell that is it's always shaky when I do this. So bear with me. Okay. This is where you can rotate the motor, and you rotate it with this nut. A lot of people take out the spark plugs, but on these motors, the compression isn't so high. You can you can turn the motor with the spark plugs in, and it tends to hold it in place. So I like to leave the spark plugs in. But if you can look at this hole right here where I'm pointing, if you look in there, you can see. Let me see if I can get in there. You can see it says, and you spin it with a 24. If you're looking in there, you can see where it says 1 to 4. That's, you really probably can't see it, but 1 to 4 means cylinders 1 and 4, and then you'll see a T. You line up the T with that notch right here, and it's at top dead center. So we're going to line it at top dead center right there. So when it's on the compression stroke. So when it's at top dead center on the compression stroke, we'll come over here again, and you can feel how the rocker arm is loose. And then on the exhaust, same thing. You can wiggle it. That tells you that when it's at top dead center, that's when you want to adjust the clearance of the valves. This bike is pretty cool because you really only have to turn the engine twice. Once you get it on top dead center on the compression on cylinder 1, you can adjust. And I'm looking at the book here. The book tells you that. So when it's at top dead center on the 1, you can adjust the inlet and the outlet on cylinder 1, the exhaust valve on cylinder 2, and the intake on cylinder 3. Then you'll rotate the motor 1 complete turn till it's on top dead center 1 to 4 again, but this will be on cylinder 4. You'll be able to adjust cylinder 4, both valves, cylinder 3, the exhaust valve, and cylinder number 2, the intake valve. It keeps you from having to set top dead center on each and every cylinder. And to show you a demonstration, we're going to pop off the exhaust on cylinder 2, and it should be loose as well. So if we take off the cap for the exhaust valve of cylinder 2, you can see that it's loose. So we can adjust these two, this one, and then we can do this intake valve, which is the intake on cylinder 3. Sorry for all the running around, but I just want you guys to see. So if we do the intake, you can see that this valve is loose too. So we can adjust those. Then we spin the motor over 1 revolution, and we'll be able to get to the remaining valves. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how you do that. Now, let me pause this and grab the feeler gauges. Okay, here we go again. Now, like I said in the preview, the intake valve lash has to be set to 0.002 of clearance. I like to use inches. So this is a feeler gauge, and it's marked on it what it is. And this one's 0.002 of an inch, and that'll slip in here, and we have to set it to that. This is the 0.003 of an inch one, and that's the kind of clearance we're talking about. Very small. To adjust the valves, let me lower this camera. Sorry, but I just wanted you to get a really good view of this. Okay. In between, if you look, you're definitely going to have a hard time seeing this. But there's a spot where the rocker arm touches the top of the valve, right in here. And you have to slip that in, and see, it slips in real easy. So this valve is actually loose. And I said in the beginning they get tight, but on these screwed adjusters, sometimes they do get loose. That's the reason why we have to adjust it. So the 0.002 fits in there super easy. It needs to be adjusted. The 3 fits in, so it's super loose. Let me try a bigger one just to see what the clearance is, and we'll have to adjust that down to the 0.2. Let's try a 5. The 5 is a little bit loose. Let's try the 6. Okay, that's set at 0.006. Looks like it's set at 6,000, so that has to be where you have to tighten that valve up. Let's go and try a 7. 7 will fit. This is a very loose valve. This is probably why we had a running issue. And the last one I'll try is an 8, just to see. Yeah, it barely fits in. That valve is adjusted to 8 thousandths. It's very, very loose. And that'll cause it to not open the valve far enough. And it'll also rattle. You'll hear this when the bike's running because it's just way too loose. So to adjust it, you take a 10 millimeter on the lock nut. You can see I put the lock nut on there. Crack it loose. Then, while I'm holding it, you can adjust it with just a flat bladed screwdriver. Okay, there's 0 lash. Loosen it up a little bit. We set it so that, I'll loosen it up a little bit, so that the 2 will slide in with a little bit of tugging on it. So right there is 2 thousandths. I like to keep then you just lock down the lock nut, and I like to keep the feeler gauge in there just to make sure that it's tight. It doesn't like tighten up too much. That's perfect right there. So I'm going to lock it down a little bit tighter. And there we're at 2 thousandths of an inch. See, that doesn't rattle as much. It's still loose enough. There's just a little bit of drag on it. I might have to tighten it up a tiny bit more. So what you do is you take your 3 and see if that fits. If the 3 fits, then it's a little bit too loose. See, the 3 won't go in. The 3 won't go in. So we're at 2 thousandths right here. Now you go ahead and you adjust the 4 that I showed you. When it's at top dead center on cylinder 1, compression stroke. Do the intake, the exhaust on number 1, the exhaust on number 2, and the intake on number 3. It feels like 3 is going to be a little bit loose. And just while I'm here, I'm going to see what the clearance is on the exhaust on 4. Then I'm not going to force you to sit through all of this. That's just how you do it. Okay, on the exhaust, the 3 fits pretty good. So what I would try is to do a 4. The 4 fits in, so I have to adjust it a little bit tighter. So it's a 3. And that's how you do it. So have fun adjusting your valves, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.